Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ask Me Anything student panel inside the Evans MPA. My name is Alejandra Peña. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the advising and outreach manager for the Evans School. I'm thrilled to be here and join you all today with our fabulous student ambassadors that are really excited and eager to talk about their experience in our MPA program. But first and foremost, today's not about me. It's about you all. So first and foremost, congratulations on your admissions to Evans. This is such an exciting time, and we're so stoked that you were able to join this program with us. So feel free, have those questions ready. Feel free to use the Q&A feature, start thinking about those, but we're just going to do some brief introductions before we get started. We're going to do a land acknowledgement. The University of Washington acknowledges the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Squamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. The Evans School acknowledges that we are on the traditional homelands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first student ambassador, Michael Partain.
Hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Michael. Nice to meet you. My name is Michael. I'm originally from Van Buren, Arkansas, and that's where I was born and raised. A small snippet about me is I've been working in the nonprofit sector for the last few years. Um, and yeah, I guess outside of school and work, I like to just be outside, play pickleball, do sports, keep up with my Razorbacks. Again, I'm from Arkansas. Um, and yeah, and just explore Seattle. I've been living in Seattle for 2 years now, so it's always fun to go explore new areas, go to the library, different parks in the areas, and be outside.
Well, thanks, Michael. Up next, we have Eliza Bittler.
Hi, yeah, I'm Eliza. I'm from Oklahoma City. This is my third year living in Seattle. I am a full-time student and I'm also a concurrent student at the Jackson School getting a Master of Arts in International Studies. Maybe a fun fact about me is that I have three cats. So with that, there's always at least one that's guaranteed to join the Zoom call. So you'll more than likely see that at some point. And I also love to read.
Thanks, Eliza. Up next is our ambassador, Emma Wells.
Hey everyone, I'm Emma. I use she, her pronouns. I grew up in Seattle, moved away for a little bit for college and a couple years after, and I'm very excited to be back now. I'm a part-time student, so I work during the day in policy research. And for some hobbies, I love to run. There's many excellent running routes in Seattle, so always more to explore, even though I've been in Seattle for a while.
Thanks, Emma. Up next is our ambassador, Peter Fitch.
Hi everyone. I'm Peter. I am from Woodinville, which is right outside of Seattle, so Seattle area. I'm a full-time first year MPA here. Um, I went to Whitman College where I studied econ and math, and I've always been a math lover. So right after college, I worked as an educator for the Seattle Universal Math Museum, did educational programs, and that kind of got me interested in public policy, which brought me here. So I still love math, still love econ. I've also worked as a swim coach and a tutor before, so I'm interested in education and educational policy. Um, and yeah, I swam my whole life, and now I'm more of a runner. So it's a little bit about my personal life.
Thanks, Peter. So those are our panelists for tonight, everyone. And I know that there's some folks and some friends that send some questions beforehand. So before we dive into our Q&A questions, I just wanted to open with what initially drew you to the Evans MPA program and maybe what ultimately made you say yes. And I'll just let our panelists decide maybe who wants to go first also.
So I alluded to it a little bit in my introduction, but I worked for the local nonprofit where we did educational programs, and that got me interested in public policy. And I knew I wanted to go back to grad school at some point, but I didn't know exactly what. And I eventually found Evans, and I liked the fact that um, everyone kind of does this basis of like quantitative classes. We do econ and finance, but then we also have the management side. So Evans is the School of Public Policy and Governance. Um, so rather than just public policy, it's also gives you the skills to learn how to be a public manager and manage like I'm in a class right now about managing organizational performance. So it gives you kind of the leadership skills as well as the analytical skills. Um, so that's what really attracted me to Evans, and I've been happy to find that it's like met my expectations in that regard, or exceeded my expectations, I should say.
I have a very similar answer to that, Peter. I just think the like combination of getting a lot of quantitative skills and economics and also having the management and leadership side is just such a strong combination. But in addition to that, I really appreciated the flexibility of the program to be able to do a concurrent degree. There's quite a few students in the Evans School that are doing concurrent degrees. Some of them are in Jackson doing international studies, but they think there's also urban design and public health as well.
I agree with everything Peter and Eliza have said. One other thing that drew me to Evans was flexibility in terms of the part-time option. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay at my job during grad school or not, and the part-time program gave me the option to do that, which I really appreciated. Um, and then I think what sold me on it was just hearing how many different paths people took to get here and how many different paths people have gone after. It was a panel similar to this I went to, and it made me realize that there were so many career paths Evans could sort of help me discover that I didn't even know existed. So that was another thing that helped seal the deal.
Yeah, and to go off of that, I'm also a part-time student. So again, the flexible format and just how accommodating the professors are, and your peers are. You do have to do group assignments, but if you reach out to each other and just say, hey, like, I have to work this day, like I'm busy, I'm not gonna be able to look at it till later, like they totally understand. And then another thing was just looking at the professors itself. So like whenever I was thinking about coming to UW, I looked at the UW website at the Evans School, and I tried to find professors that I wanted to learn from. I tried to dig deeper and see like what have they been researching? What has the professors been doing over the last 10 years, and do I want to learn from them? And I definitely did. I mean, one professor, shout out David Suarez. He teaches a lot of nonprofit management classes. He does like participatory grant making, and I was like, that is someone I want to learn from. And yeah, and again, another reason I said yes was just because of the different perspectives everyone brings. Especially in this current cohort, there's a lot of people who they have like environmental background. Again, I don't do anything like that. I've been working with kids and education, working with youth. So just getting their perspective and how they approach public service has really just broadened my understanding as well. So yeah, that's why I picked Evans.
Thank you all for sharing. It's so great to see how everyone kind of, in a sense, just gracefully stumbles into like policy in this work. And there's so many layers to it. So thank you for kind of sharing your journey of what brought you here. We do have a live Q&A question, and feel free to keep sending those in, friends. But it comes from Abby. One of the biggest regrets they have as an undergraduate was not getting involved enough with students or maybe not even staff. Um, they're asking if anyone has any advice for getting involved in the Evans community and making the most out of this network. And there's some layers to that, so we can kind of go through it too, my friends. So no worries.
Okay, I think I can start. That's a pretty big question. But I think that I think Evans just has a very relational culture to begin with. So I don't think it takes like a lot of, I mean, it does take effort, but it's really not hard, I feel like, to create relationships with faculty or create relationships with staff and students. We also have the Evans Student Organization, which is kind of puts on parties and events for the Evans student body. And we also have student interest groups. So you can join a student interest group that is one of your interests, funny enough. And so we've got those on like environmental science or environmental policy. We have one about curriculum and education. We have one that's specifically for women. So there's already some structural opportunities to kind of get plugged in, but I think there's also so many other committees and work groups that faculty and staff are always supportive of having student input and student voices on. So I think if you have an interest, there's probably more than likely there's a committee or a work group that you can join and kind of get connected to faculty in that way, kind of outside of the classroom.
I think that's a great answer. I resonate with this too. When I finished undergrad, I kind of had a bubble of really close friends, but there were a lot of people, and I went to Whitman College, which is smaller than my high school. It was like 1,500 students, but I only had a very tight-knit group of friends, and I wish I had kind of reached out more. So here at Evans, I've made a conscious effort to do that, but also I think Evans is just like facilitates that a lot. The professors are very approachable. I've like connected with many of my professors on LinkedIn already, and like they'll say hi in the hallway. Even Dean Jody's like very accessible and approachable, and I think that helps. And yeah, I think just kind of making an effort to take take advantage of every opportunity that Evans has, because we have a lot of different opportunities throughout the quarter to like just hang out, meet other students, and network. So
And I would just add to, I've really appreciated the variety of ways to get involved. Like it can be one time, just a couple hours, very low commitment. If you're really busy, it doesn't have to mean, joining a club that meets weekly. So there are many different ways to get involved, and it doesn't have to be super high commitment, but can still be a very meaningful way to get to know other classmates or be involved in other ways.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. But just to add to it, again, like I said, I'm from Arkansas, so I had to move up here and I didn't really know anyone. So you did have to kind of start fresh and build your own community and find the people you want to be close to. And I think Evans does do a good job at facilitating that. I mean, you got just multiple activities. I think like quarterly like events. Like recently we had like a Mardi Gras themed party. It's just a great way to get involved and meet other people, not just first years, but second years as well. It's just it brings everyone together. And again, the professors are approachable, so don't be afraid to reach out to them. If you are afraid, you can also just talk to the TA. The TA is there to help you, assist you with anything you may need as well. So again, don't be afraid to just jump in and start meeting people.
one specific thing I want to bring up is the Evans School launch. So at the very beginning of the program, you meet the whole cohort is together for a couple days, and I would say like take advantage of that like as much as you can, because that's the way I met a lot of different people, and I was really grateful for that. So um, like Evans from the very beginning does a good job of kind of introducing the whole cohort to each other. So I really appreciate it.
Wonderful. And thank you for that feedback, Peter. Yeah, we try to make it a kind of sense of community, sense of belonging, and try to find that home away from home for folks, because sometimes this is the first time folks are taking that really big leap of faith. There's a big reward at the end, of course, absolutely, but it's just all about getting yourself out there and creating your own community within the greater community. And I feel like everyone's pretty great in open arms, even if that's faculty, like Michael was mentioning, or staff as well. We really want to create that for folks. We're getting more questions here, but it looks like some folks have some questions of maybe how many students are in the cohort and maybe what maybe class size looks like.
I believe the cohorts are around 100, maybe a little less or a little more than 100 classes. So for the core classes at least, there's 2 or 3 sections. So like in my finance class, we had I think 50 people. But in the management classes, there's 3 different sections, so there's around 30 people per class. So it's definitely very manageable and like conducive to good discussions. I think the biggest you'll get is around 50 at Evans at least.
Yeah, I would say that's roughly around. Typically, we're seeing like 100 or so folks every autumn. We admit for every autumn quarter. So yeah, that pretty much tracks, I would say. Looks like some folks have maybe some questions about maybe what the funding or like financial aspect might look like. Curious to know if there's any like tips or tricks that you all have, found during your journey of like financial aid, like resources, or opportunities, maybe part-time jobs, things like that.
I think this one's really tricky because I think a lot of it does depend on like individual circumstance. But one piece of advice that I would offer is to look for TA-ships in lots of different schools or departments around the campus. For example, I'm a TA right now in the College of the Environment, and that's based off of work that I did in my undergrad. So it doesn't have to be just within the Evans School or just related to public policy or political science. You really can branch out and use really any part of your educational background to try to find a TA-ship.
And this doesn't necessarily answer the piece about financial sources besides loans, but just to add to what Eliza said, like a lot of people are working either part-time jobs or full-time jobs if you're part-time students, so it's very flexible in accommodating people's schedules with that as another source of income during grad school.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks a
Um,
little bit different for folks, but yeah, Peter, go ahead.
Sorry, I was looking for the link, but there's this office called sorry, Graduate Funding Information Service, and you can do a consultation there and they'll help you look for funding. Um, I met with them before I started at Evans and they were super helpful. Uh, I think that I put a link in the chat. I think that has over to the side, it says like schedule a 30-minute consultation. Um, so I think they'll be able to help you more like on your individual circumstances and help you out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter. Yes, for plugging that in. And then I also put in their like search tool for like other opportunities. So whether that's within the greater University of Washington or maybe some other like third-party options as well. But yes, highly recommend connecting with them one-on-one if you kind of want a better understanding of what that looks like. We'll do a subtle plug for our in in partnership GFIS session, so Graduate Funding Information Service or GFIS, next Wednesday, and that's our unadmitted student calendar. So if you haven't registered for that, please do that because we'll have them there and they'll help kind of explain a little bit more of that funding piece to your MPA as well. But thanks everyone for their insights. Question? Sorry, I think I also have some direct messages, so I just want to make sure I'm covering where we need to go. But what is something maybe new or unexpected that you learned during your Evans School experience? This one's kind of fun.
I can point to one specific class that we took last quarter, and that was finance and budgeting. I did not think I was going to like it as much as I did, but once we started like working with the Excel sheets and we started looking at like the different financial information of different nonprofits, and I like that the class also like looked at nonprofits and organizations specifically in Seattle. So I thought that was pretty cool. But it did give you like kind of like real experiences. You kind of like look at the cash inflows and outflows of the organization, something I was not able to do 1 year ago. But now we're like over here budgeting for like programs and things like that. So it was just really cool to get that insight. And again, that was finance and budgeting. Never thought in a million years I would take it and like it, but here we are.
That's a bit of a curveball, huh, my friends? Such as expecting. But yeah, absolutely. Do you have Peter?
I can also say I do have more of a finance and econ background, so those classes weren't as unexpected for me. But I would just say the management classes uh, have given me a lot of skills that I didn't realize that I needed. So like last quarter, the first quarter of the core classes is 511. And we talk about like management problems versus policy problems. So it was helpful to kind of identify like areas where public managers can like make a difference without like changing big like legislative policies, but just like on a smaller scale, kind of influence their organization to be more efficient or more equitable. So I think, yeah, that's been the main thing is kind of understanding the role of public managers and public organizations and what they can actually accomplish.
One more thing that maybe shouldn't have been surprising, but was, is how much I learned from my classmates, especially in 511 and 512, which are managing politics and the policy process, and then the organizational management class that Peter was talking about. We have a lot of small group discussions, and people will talk about how the things we're learning have applied in their previous job experiences or in their lives. And that brings in just so many interesting perspectives to the material that you wouldn't get otherwise. So when I was envisioning what classes looked like, I think I didn't really factor in how much that would add, and has been one of my favorite parts.
I definitely agree with that because I don't have a ton of work experience. I just finished undergrad 2 years ago, so hearing people who are coming in after, working in the public sector for 20 years is like really illuminating and definitely has been a huge contribution to my experience here.
Thanks, y'all. Yeah, sometimes you have to think like, oh, what is something very, oddly surprising or unknew that I, at this point something would happen. I love this. This is great. So thank you for your honesty because it depends for folks and what that looks like. We have more questions in the kind of realm of, are you able to take elective classes in other departments? Specifically, maybe as they pertain to your specific kind of like maybe policy like focus like or interest areas.
Yeah, I can start with this one. The answer is yes, absolutely. Um, and I've specifically taken a lot of electives in the Jackson School. This spring quarter, I'll be taking a class that's actually cross-listed with the between the Jackson School and the law school that's on space law and policy, like outer space. And so that's just so interesting and kind of niche. And so that's definitely something that I see as like, an interest, but also is so unique. It can add so much to this degree.
So Eliza, you're a concurrent student, is that right? You're
Yep.
doing 2 degrees.
Yeah.
So even if you don't do 2 degrees, you can take classes outside of Evans. So I'm actually taking a class right now called Nature and Health, and it's from the School of Environmental and Forest Sciences. And it's just a class I happened to meet the professor and decided to take his class. So it's not super related to what I want to do, but it's something that interests me. And then next quarter, I'm actually taking this class at the School of Education about like education policy analysis. And that is definitely something I want to pursue. So Evans doesn't have any like education specific classes, so I have this opportunity to take it outside of Evans. So yeah, there's a lot of different. That's what's great. What is great about being at the University of Washington is that like there's so many different departments with like really great classes. Like a lot of public health people are taking classes at Evans. So if you're interested in public health, there's a ton of opportunities there, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunities.
Great. Thanks, y'all. More questions coming in the chat, so feel free, send them our way. But we have a question of what, internship, like if internships are mandatory in the summer, or maybe what career options, possibilities might look like.
There is an internship requirement, but you can waive out of it if you have applicable previous work experience. So I filled out the survey and waived out of it, so I don't have a ton of other details about that. And then, yeah. But I know that there are lots of opportunities emailed our way for internships and career fairs. So ample resources and ideas throughout the year for internships.
Yeah, as a first year who didn't get that requirement waived, I'm currently starting to look for internships for the summer. And yeah, Evans definitely helps a lot. There's a weekly email where they send out all the opportunities that they know of. We had a job fair here last week for like specifically for people looking to fulfill that internship requirement. So yeah, at UW and at Evans specifically, there's definitely a lot of support for that. Um,
Absolutely. We also have our own like career like team. So they are up to snuff on what it looks like if you're thinking about how to tailor your resume to a specific maybe internship or job prospect, your cover letter, doing mock interviews, updating like your LinkedIn presence, things like that. Or we're more than happy to help you like feel comfortable and also confident when you're going out into the work field at any level too. Ultimately, you have that service up until a year after you graduate too, which is pretty stellar. It's not just like, hey, congrats, you graduated, that's it. We want to make sure that you are feeling supported even when you graduate from this program. All right, more questions are coming in. Oh, it looks like we have a live one. Is there any advice you would give to someone who is considering the program or maybe getting ready to start? Great question.
I can start. So I really actually like the first question about getting involved in networking. I think coming to Evans with the kind of mentality of like making the most of it, like if you're already thinking about that, I think you're in the right spot. Because there's like a ton of different opportunities every week that you can choose to make the most of. That's kind of just a general advice. I don't know. I don't know if I have more specific advice for Evans. Maybe just like I don't know. It's something I'm still trying to figure out too. Is like how can I make the most out of this? Because I think the real benefit is not just what you learn in the classes. It's also like the connections you make, and so yeah, it's something I definitely think about a lot. Like how can I make the most of this outside of class?
Yeah, I'll kind of repeat, well, two things. The first one, I'll repeat what I said earlier was, again, research professors, get to know the faculty a little bit, see what they research in the past, see if it lines up with your interest. I mean, the second thing, we've been saying get involved, but you can also get involved outside of Evans School. I mean, there's the big campus. I mean, there's so many other student organizations outside of Evans you can join, whether that's environmental, if you want to lean into the political side, or just do something, weird and different. I'm sure they have a bunch of different clubs out there. So just again, look on the website, look outside of Evans as well, see if it's the right community for you.
I would say also two things for the considering piece. One is it helped me to think about where I wanted to be when I ended grad school. And I was like, what do I want to have accomplished and how can Evans help me get there? Like both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And I was like, okay, the classes line up with the different things I'm trying to learn. Or if Evans doesn't have that, the option to take classes outside of Evans opens up all these other interesting doors. And it just seems that Evans has a great reputation in the Pacific Northwest and outside of the Pacific Northwest. And seems to be a great way to get in the door with different organizations, even just for like informational interviews. So having that on your side seems like another good thing. So those were some things I was thinking about as I was considering. And it was also helpful to talk to current students. So I'm happy to put my email in the chat. And if anyone has questions after, you can ask them. And I'm sure the same is true for the other ambassadors.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, y'all. Yeah, we have a committed like web page to our Evans Ambassadors team. So this is just a sampling of folks that are in this program. So yes, absolutely. Use that to your advantage. We're more than happy. I'm speaking on behalf of them to connect with you and continue these conversations. Absolutely. Another question coming in is there something that maybe you've changed your mind about after starting grad school or about Evans or maybe public policy in general? Is there any type of perspective that has changed? Maybe kind of putting it in a different phrase there, but just kind of leaving that open-ended for folks. These are really great questions also, by the way, friends, that we're sending our ambassadors. Thank
Yeah, I can start. I think I kind of changed what like interest area I really wanted to focus on. I came in wanting to focus on international development. And after taking 513, which is our policy analysis class, I kind of switched that to wanting to know more about policy analysis and wanting to know more about finance and economics. And I'm not necessarily much of like a math person, but I definitely found a lot of support here to be able to help with that and um, help me kind of encourage that interest. I think someone also mentioned earlier that the finance and budgeting class, I was so scared for that one coming in, and it really is the one that takes you by surprise. Is one of the most interesting classes and one of the classes that you feel like you get the most out of because I didn't know much about it coming into it.
Yeah, somewhat similar to that. I came into it knowing that I wanted to learn more about policy analysis and evaluation, but I thought I would maybe focus less on the quantitative side of that and have really enjoyed the quantitative classes I've taken so far. And I'm looking forward to more of those and strengthening those skills. So I knew when I was applying, I was like, this is maybe a little bit more of a weak area and I'm excited to grow there. But I was surprised that now I'm like, oh, maybe I'll take more than the required classes and keep going down that path.
Yeah, something that changed for me as well is I think my focus area. So when I first started the program, I was like nonprofit management. That's where my experience is. That's where I'm going to keep going. But as I'm taking these classes, and I think Evans School has like 7 or 8 different focus areas you can choose from when it comes to the electives. So definitely take a look at those lists. I mean, there's from like environmental to public policy to nonprofit management. So you can take a look at that list and just whenever you are taking electives, it's okay to jump out of your comfort zone a little bit. That's what electives are for. So just go out there, try something new and see what you like.
Great pieces of advice. Going off of Emma's kind of take of like the quantitative side, we have a question regarding like, is there like an expectation or what does that look like for like a quantitative like background for folks? Or is it better to kind of go on like Khan Academy or take some classes before entering the program? Or are there ways of like resources and support or just learning throughout, the course of the quantitative focus classes?
Sorry, can you restate the question, Alejandra?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Of course.
Sorry about
So
that.
yeah, no, you're good. So the MPA for some folks that maybe are unaware, our MPA has a kind of stronger kind of quantitative like math like focus. And so the question that it looks like the student is trying to ask is, do they need to have like a background? Like what is like the more I'm trying to find the words of also how to say like, is it better for them to have like a stronger math background when it comes to these different like quantitative or policy analysis courses? Would that be beneficial for them? Or are there other ways of like resources to learn as you go, and like a support for that for those specific classes?
Yeah. I think it's definitely beneficial, but it's also definitely not expected that you have a super strong background. We start off with like in your first quarter, you take economics, and it's like starts from the very basics, and um, so like it helps to definitely have a little bit of a background, but you also learn it on the way. So by the end of your first year, everyone has the same kind of base level of quantitative analysis skills. I do have more of I was an econ major, so I waived the first stats class. But that starts like I think everyone who takes that is gonna get get up to the same level where you have those skills by the end of the first year, and then in the second year you can take electives and kind of start to apply those skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Oh, sorry, Michael. I would echo that. I don't think you have to do outside like classes or coursework in order to be prepared. I always think Khan Academy is a great resource. So if you find that helpful, then I wouldn't say no. But I do think there's a lot of support within the student body and also from TAs and faculty to help the students that are maybe where math isn't their strongest area, to help them kind of grasp the material and be prepared for further coursework.
Yeah, I agree with all that. One thing I want to throw in there was that right before the first quarter starts, there is a math camp. It was like a 3-day math camp. You go, I think it was led by a PhD student, but very knowledgeable. So like you're there, and it's also a good chance to meet other people in the cohort who maybe you just haven't met yet. But so they have a math camp. It's a 3-day camp where you go. It's not that intensive. Everyone is kind of there to, support you, help you learn. And again, if you do have questions, your professor, your TA is always there.
Thanks, y'all. Sometimes it's hard because, well, we don't have a specific, prerequisite or any like course requirements for our MPA program. So always just like to name that. We do like to be transparent is there is a bit of a quantitative focus in our program, so we just want to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident. Like Michael mentioned, like there's other resources available to you, and as well as our other panelists mentioned that they also want to watch you succeed and support you through that. So be sure to connect when you need. Switching gears a little bit, what does living in Seattle look like? What a great question. Like how do you spend your time? Are folks in graduate school housing? Or what does that look like? Maybe your living situation. How do you commute to campus? All the fun things.
So I'm in grad student housing and I've had a great experience with that. So I just walked to campus. Previously though, I lived in Mountain Lake Terrace, which is a suburb just a little bit north of Seattle, and I had taken the light rail to campus. But I feel like there's students that live all over the place in the city. Some were south, some were north. So I think yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, the light rail is a great option for getting to campus if you don't live super close by or don't have a car. Um, I was living in Seattle before starting the program and decided not to move, so I live in a neighborhood that's maybe a 20-minute drive from campus, but I can take the link and escape all the rush hour traffic, and it's awesome. But outside of that, living in Seattle is great. There's so much to do. The nature, as I'm sure you probably know, is great. So there are many hiking options. Um, if you're into that, or if you like running, great running routes around the city, and just lots to get involved in and do in whatever neighborhood you live in.
Yeah, I grew up my basically my whole life in Western Washington, and now I live in Seattle in the Central District, which is if you've ever been to Seattle, there's a big park called the Arboretum. So if you have a chance to visit Seattle, I definitely would recommend visiting campus. But yeah, there's parks and nature kind of all around the city. So I think it's a great place to live, and I really love it here. I take the bus, and as students, we get free. Well, we pay for a like included in our student fees is free transit access for the bus, light rail. Um, I think ferries too, if you need to take ferries. So yeah, that's a great option. It makes it super easy to get to campus from kind of anywhere in the city. Or if you live near campus to get to other parts of the city and explore.
Yes, you can take the ferry. I used my student ID to go to Bainbridge Island. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah, and I use my student ID to take the bus. So the bus system is really well. It's a good bus system. I don't know. Like I said, I was born and raised in Arkansas. We don't have a lot of public transit in Arkansas. So again, up here, I was pretty excited to have that. But yeah, I tap my student ID. I get on the bus. It's like a 10-minute bus ride. I'm on campus. So pretty easy once you start learning the bus routes. But yeah, living in Seattle, it's been great. So much to do. I've been living here for 2 years, and there's still more to explore. So yeah, there's definitely public parks, things like that to get out there. A lot of running clubs if you like running. A lot of clubs in Seattle. If you want to get into rowing, I'm sure you can do that as well. So a lot of things to do on the water. Yeah, a bunch of little coffee shops, as you know, it's a coffee capital. So go out there and you see a bunch of different local coffee shops. Oh, and sports teams. A lot of sports teams. Good sport culture. Women's sports. Seattle Storm, Torrent. Shout out to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Super Bowl champs, just casually. That's fun. That's great. It's a great time if you're into sports. Fantastic. But yeah, there's so much to do around the city and the greater Seattle area too. So, oh yeah, absolutely. Kind of going up of that, maybe what does like a typical like day or week maybe look for you? And then maybe how you balance that when it comes to school, social life, and if you work also.
So I'm a full-time student, so I take kind of the earliest classes I can. There's also night class options, but I tend to prefer the day or morning classes. So often I'll get up, get on the bus, come to this class. I'll bring my running shoes or gym bag and go to the gym or go for a run after class. We have a student lounge. I'm actually here now. I can show you around. This is the grad student lounge in Parrington, which is our hall where all the public policy classes are. So I'll like leave my running shoes down here and then after class take them and go for a run. But yeah, um, what was the other part of the question? Sorry, just like a day in the life.
Yeah, you're
Um,
good. Or like how
yeah.
you balance like work and like social
Oh
life
yeah,
or
working.
school, but
Um,
all good.
Yeah, so I'm a full-time student, so I actually do have a part-time work study job where I tutor in a local Seattle public school, but I just do that one day a week. So it's pretty easy to manage like a small part-time job and classes. I know there are people who have like more full-time jobs and take night classes, which I'm sure is a lot more difficult. So I'm lucky that I'm able to be a full-time student. Um, but yeah, there are definitely class options. Like I said, there's like night classes for every. There's options for night classes for all the core classes, so you can definitely make it work.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I work full time currently, and so I am taking those evening classes. They're not too bad. So the part-time schedule, it's two classes a quarter, so it's just two classes a week. And so it's usually from like 4:30 to 7:30. So around 7:20, 7:30, you're getting out of class. Yeah, like I said, I work full time, so in the morning I'm at work, and then my work does let me leave just a little bit early so I can make it to class on time. So they're accommodating and understanding that way. So I'm very lucky to have that. That's pretty much what my day looks like, work and then school. But then, of course, you do have, like I said, office hours. You can go to TA if you need help. And then you have the weekend to kind of, decompress and kind of structure your weekend how you see fit. But I usually use the weekend to like a little bit of study. And then the evenings, I'll try to go again, walk around Green Lake or just be in Seattle. So, yeah.
And mine is quite similar to Michael's. I see him in all the evening classes. So I also work full time during the day. And then I actually work in a building that's on top of a link stop. So I just walk down the stairs and get on the train and come over to campus, go to class, and then get out in the evenings. I've been on a Wednesday trivia kick to try to do some fun things and not just be doing work in school. And then, yeah, catch up on homework on the weekends, get outside. Like I said, I like to run. So I've been enjoying the suspiciously unwintery winter, at least for running purposes.
Right. I think we have time, I think just for one more question. And so for our last question, if admitted students could take away one thing from maybe let's say today's conversation, what would that be? It could be also like a piece of advice that you may have, but we'll just let that marinate for our folks.
I think I would say like definitely think about like what classes you want to take, or think about what professors you really want to establish a relationship with or professors you want to learn from. Um, before you enter the program, just have like just have an idea of really what you're trying to get out of this degree. The time really does go by so quickly. So I would just really recommend thinking about um kind of what skills you want to learn or what interest area you really want to invest in.
I would say really focus on relationship building while you're in the program. Something they said during orientation week was these are not just your classmates, these are your colleagues, and relationships you're probably going to have for the rest of your life. And again, like we already said, Evans brings a wide, diverse of different perspectives and backgrounds, experiences. And so it's always good to lean on each other, learn from each other. And again, get out of your comfort zone, roll up the sleeves and try to just jump into something new. And yeah, lean on your classmates and learn from each other.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would just say kind of try to take advantage of all the opportunities that we have here at Evans, and just uh, I've found that the Evans community has been very welcoming. So I hope that you all find that too when you get the chance to visit or choose to join us here. So yeah, just I agree with everything Michael said. Just lean on your classmates. Um, yeah, make those connections while you can here.
I agree with everything everyone has said. I think just to sum it up, there are so many opportunities to get involved and you can't do them all. So it is helpful to have some idea what you're hoping to get out of it. But at the same time, don't let that close you off from things that you might not normally say yes to. So at least that's something I'm working on is like a balance of trying new things, but also doing things that will send me in the direction I'm trying to go.
I think that's a great note to end on. It has been a pleasure being with all of you here tonight, but can we just give a round of applause, maybe virtual, to our phenomenal student panelists, everyone? So a round of applause. Thank you so much for, oh, you can do it online. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, fantastic. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. We hope that this is just, one of many conversations that you get to have with us. We are here to help demystify this process, right? If you want to connect one-on-one, please feel free to do so. That's exactly why we're here. I know someone did a shout out, but if you want to schedule one-on-one appointments with our admissions team, that'll be that first link in the chat. And then if you want to connect with any of our MPA student ambassadors, please click that second link and it'll show you all of our friends that are here and willing to help answer your questions, because ultimately you get to decide where your educational journey goes, right? We don't have that power. You have that power. And so please feel free to connect with us. We are also hosting different virtual and in-person events this spring. We have two big ones. We are having another open house on April 9th. And then on April 10th, we're going to have a party in Parrington event where it's for admitted, more details to come, of course, where it's for admitted students, our current students, so you can hang out with our friends here, absolutely, and alumni as well. So as we kind of mentioned and our students mentioned that networking is really big, is a great opportunity to kind of help you cement yourself in the community, right? Join us for that. It's going to be a great celebration. This building will be packed with folks from across all different kind of areas, walks of life, generations. It's a super exciting time, but feel free, stay connected. This is just a list of our email, our phone, and our website, but thank you all for joining us. I am so just humbled to be here and our courageous change makers that want to make a difference wherever you decide to go, right? My job isn't to force you to come here. Of course, we would love for you to join this community, but our job is just to talk about this program, what that might look like for you, and if that's a great fit, right, at the end of the day. So I'll get off my soapbox, but thank you all again for joining us. Enjoy your evening, and congratulations again on your admission to Evans. We hope to see you soon.